Trustee Healy.
Here.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Milani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the July 19th, 2021 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting of July 19th, 2021.
That would be the minutes for the Committee of the Whole.
Oh, thank you. Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski. Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Action items, ITB number 21-040, Parks Court Repairs 2021.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Milani.
Move to recommend to the Village Board to approve awarding athletic court repairs to U.S. Tennis Court Construction in an amount of $239,420 plus a 10% contingency of $23,942 for a total not to exceed amount of $239,362 for specific court repair work at Dogwood Park, Dugan Park, Fountain Hills Park, Grasslands Park, Laurel Hills Park, Mission Hills Park, and Wedgwood Estates Park, and to authorize the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review, and to authorize the village manager to approve change orders not to exceed the contingency amount.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
noticed on this bid there was only one bid that was received. Could we have more information on that, please?
Sure. So historically, we've done these kinds of improvements every year, and we struggle to get bids. So this past year, we had submitted the bid, and we had 12 different vendors download and view the opportunity, but only 2 did that completely. When we received the proposals, we only received 1 proposal. We did reach out to a couple other vendors. One didn't submit a bid at all. Another vendor had said that they just have labor shortages and couldn't handle any more work. So the labor shortages that everybody's experiencing in businesses is hitting everywhere, and that prevented them. They're interested in 2022, but they couldn't take on any more work in 2021.
Is there any way we could push this off until 2022, or is it time sensitive?
I can show you a few.
I'll answer that one. We will absolutely not push our court repairs out. Let me ask you a question, Ray.
Sure.
Is this in line with our previous bids on these on this type of work?
It is. Historically, we've had this kind of response.
So we have something that's well, we only have one bidder. These guys have worked for us before, and their bid's in line with the bids that we've had in the past.
And they've done excellent work. If you look at some of the courts we've already finished, they do really good work.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
more of a procedural thing. I noticed that the motion says total not to exceed amount of $239,362. However, this is not the total of the original amount plus a 10% contingency. Notice that the hundreds place is correct, but the others is not. So I move to amend this to the amount of $263,362.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
You're right. He's doing the math. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Please call the roll for the amendment.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Yes. Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Any questions or comments on the remainder? Okay, call the roll on the amended motion with the new not to exceed amount.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Historic landmark discussion.
You want to start? Sure.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and the other members of the committee of the whole. This, the item before you tonight is, with the recently discussions for the Bully Farm, there isn't any presentation to locate. So with recently bringing the landmark structure of the Bully Farm and the farmstead through the village board process, this item gives an update as to how properties in the landmark section of the Land Development Code came to be. And in addition to that, staff is going to be presenting some ideas of potentially some modifications to our landmark restrictions, as well as our restrictions for contributing structures as they relate to residential properties. Initially, all of the landmark or contributing structures were confined within the Old Orland Historic District, and as there were properties that were either identified for architectural or cultural significance to the village, that area was expanded to other areas of town, which caused the landmark property section to be created. In order, basically, the history of the village identifying these properties as either historically, architecturally, or culturally significant was a range of surveys that were completed. So the first in 1984 was specifically of the Old Orland Historic District and identified a total of 30 properties, both residential and commercial, as contributing to the district itself. In 1991, that survey was again created, and basically, and 27 properties were only included as contributing. This, in the time period when in between these two surveys, if there were any modifications to the structures or if there were things that weren't in line historically with the architectural style that were changed to the properties, they may have been removed. Then in 2005, a partial survey of the Old Orland area was completed, which only included some of the properties in the district. And then in 2005, the village began the process of amending the Land Development Code to include regulations for Old Orland and for the contributing structures within the historic district. In 2008, another residential area intensive survey was completed, and the list of contributing structures was lowered to 16, and that acted as the basis for the local register of historic places and the basis for the landmark structures within the village of Orland Park. As part of an amendment that also took place in 2008, the village added all 16 contributing structures that were previously identified in Old Orland as the basis for the landmarks, and then included properties such as the Stellwagen Farm and Bully Farm that weren't within the district itself to the local landmarks list. Just to point out, any changes to local landmark structures or contributing structures are more stringent than what you would see for a local resident that's not a landmark or a commercial building that's not a landmark. For example, if they have minor changes such as the replacement of their windows or some of the tuck pointing that takes place on the property, that would require review by the Planning Commission as well as recommendation and approval by the Village Board of Trustees. In the item, I've listed all of the contributing structures as well as local landmarks, and point out that currently there are only 6 single-family residences that fall into this category, and only 5 of them that are privately owned. With the village staff, when imposing some of these requirements on single-family home owners, we receive some pushback for how stringent some of the requirements are. And part of the reason why that is in more established historic districts, there's a critical mass of properties, sometimes anywhere between 15 and 100, that actually serve to I guess, have a stronger support for maintaining a certain architectural style or potential historic appearance that was common amongst more properties than just a select few. So as staff receive some of that pushback, we're looking at some changes that may relax the requirements that our single-family homeowners are held to in these specific instances, or potentially removing them from the local landmarks or contributing structures list. if that's the direction of the village board. So prior to us investigating our opportunity or the feasibility of doing some of these things, we're looking for some direction from the committee on how to proceed. So I'd be more than happy to answer some of your questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Malani?
Just two quick questions. I noticed item number 21, like all the village buildings are landmarks. Is that just because they're named, so to speak, like the Frederick T. Owens Village Hall? Is that what makes them landmarks?
There was when the village hall was originally developed, they did receive some awards for the architecture of the building and the campus itself, so that led to, in large part, to the landmarking of the buildings.
Okay, so our buildings then would fall under this category that we would have to be stringent on what we change. Okay, and then with the residential properties, if we can make homeowners' lives easier, I'm kind of all for that, but also I still feel that like some of those homes, we want to maintain the historical aspect. So if we can keep a happy medium, I think somewhere, I think this makes sense to me. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy?
Ed, I don't know if you would know the answer to this, but there's 5 residential properties. Were they all purchased while the general zoning rules were, or these rules were in place, or did they own the properties before these rules?
I don't know the answer for every single property, but I know for some the regulations have been in place since they own the property.
So they purchased a property.
Some of them
knowing that the rule,
knowing the rules
what the
apply,
environment
correct.
was. Yeah.
But that would also be part of the analysis that we would do when we came back to the village board.
Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Reardon?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to look at this. I echo Trustee Milani's point about a balance. He said happy medium, a nice balance to keep, but making it more difficult as time goes on can be difficult. Can be harder on the homeowner. Could be some of these things are outdated and not necessary anymore. So I encourage looking into it.
Any other comments? I definitely would want to know when they purchased the property. Obviously, they purchased it knowing the status applies, then that impacts the decision. Also, I see things here that were built in like 1988 and 89, and I don't really think those are historic landmarks. Just because they're on the top 200 architectural, I mean, are we going to declare the library a historical landmark when it was built in 2000? It doesn't make sense. So, the Village Hall, the Civic Center, the Labey Center, and our Apache Memorial are, that's our Village Hall, and that's great. And we've won an award for architecture, but it doesn't make it historic. And pretty much I would assume that anything built after I was in my 20s probably is not really all that historic in Orland Park. So definitely this is something I think we should be reviewing.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, let's move on.
Fiscal year 2021 budget amendment number 4, approval.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy?
I move to recommend that the village board approve an increase in the general fund expenditure budget in the amount of $143,990, an increase in the water and sewer fund expenditure budget of $316,430, an increase in the recreation and parks fund of $9,981, and a decrease in the capital project fund expenditure budget of $251,928, as detailed on the fiscal year 2021 amendment number 4.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, so Finance Director will go through, just quickly through the item, and then we have a little presentation also regarding the internship program. So if we can just have Kevin go through that first.
Sure. Tonight's amendment that's being considered covers a variety of different projects and initiatives. I'll just list those for tonight's discussion, and we can go into the other discussion a little bit more. But this includes the purchase of additional network cameras for monitoring. In addition, removing the document scanning project that was planned for this year. We're going to contemplate moving that to next year. We're reevaluating our document imaging provider that we will be using for that project. In addition, there's a change order that was already reviewed with the 82nd Avenue multipurpose path engineering and additional funding needed for the stormwater master plan that was erroneously omitted out of the budget in a previous budget amendment. But in addition to that, we would be adding back in some engineering for the T connection for our water system. Other programs that are changed in this budget amendment would be amending the budget to reflect the change in the audit contract that was discussed a few weeks ago. As on the personnel side, this includes the internship program as well as modifying the way we are treating some part-time employees in the Public Works Department. The internship program in the Public Works Department are also contemplated in the salary ordinance amendment later on this evening.
So as far as the student internship program, if you can just give Denise the microphone.
Thank you.
I don't think it's on.
Very much. So we talked about the internship program recently and wanted to just provide a little more information for you. Tarika's going to go through the slides for me. Thank you. So the internship program that the village is planning to implement in a more formalized fashion is for undergraduate and graduate students. These are interns to be hired by manager's office, finance, development services in the graduate area, and then undergraduate interns in communications and marketing, engineering, HR, IT, public works, and recreation. And the village-wide program is really going to be a great recruiting tool for ongoing candidate pipeline, and then gives us an extra set of hands, extra talent in each of the departments that is needed for a variety of projects. Can we go to the next slide? So in 2018, the Department of Labor provided guidance to help determine whether interns and students are entitled to pay under the Fair Labor Standards Act. They provided a fact sheet 71 on the internship program. And so in general, unpaid internships for public sector where the interns are volunteers without expectations of pay are generally permissible. The police department's unpaid internship program is a great example of that. And it's an opportunity for these students to observe the day-to-day operations for the benefit, of the student, and they can decide, that they're going to pursue a career in law enforcement. The two types of paid internships, the one that we're thinking about for 1 year is undergraduate one first. They're going to earn between $11 and $13 an hour. Some receive course credit and require school-generated periodic evaluations to receive the credit. I can tell you from my experience, this is a good program for undergraduates. It's sometimes limited in duration because, students are in school at the time, during school hours, during work hours, but there's opportunity for us to have some additional assistance on big projects that we're working on. Next slide. The paid graduate internship program is also contemplated, and that is going to be paid between $12 and about $16 an hour. My experience, again, in working with graduate interns, students, has primarily been from NIU, and it's also been very positive. Most attended school in the evenings, and so we actually had some really good time available to us during the course of the day, minimum of 20 hours at least, available consistently during the workday. And so we had great projects to assign, generally research, administrative, some meaningful projects where they were able to attend various meetings as well. Next slide. So some of the success measures that we're looking at, in addition to some of the school evaluations that are available, would be evaluations that the village implements. So at the beginning of the internship, each of the departments works together to have their outline organized for projects that the intern is going to be completing, and then have expectations for the experience. And then during the course of the internship, additional check-in, as well as at the conclusion of the project, so that we can really determine the success of the project and then conduct exit interviews where their interns can provide a final evaluation of the work. Much like, it happens during the school year, you do get evaluations, not only for the employer, but actually for the school itself in order to make sure that you're getting the course credit. Okay, that's all I had. Do you have any questions?
And just wanted to add a couple of things here. So what we are proposing is a one-year evaluation period for the program, and the organization right now is undergoing a lot of change. And one of the things that we need to do is our policies and procedures need to be updated. Within our existing staff right now, with all the work that they have, people cannot devote the research time. Our staff can't devote the research time. So this is a win-win situation. For the amount of money that we're going to be paying, we would not be able to hire a part-time person for that, with that skill set. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to offer these interns that minimum amount of wage, but we're also offering them experience and opportunity by being part of that. So we would be, if approved, we would be looking for each of the interns to provide us a commitment of 1 year, and then we would be able to come back in a year and let the board know how the program is progressing. Previously, the board approved a NeoGov contract, and one of the modules of NeoGov is our human capital. It's what we're going to be using. One of the modules is this module called Power DMS. Instead of having a divergent, everybody has their own policies and procedures, this is going to be our repository for that. So in 1 year, we will be able to see how far we have progressed towards that. That goal is important because we are also going to be seeking accreditation for each and every department in our organization. Accreditation is a self-evaluation. It's a self-awareness that everybody has to go through. And the way you codify what you're doing is through your policies and procedures. So it will win. Like I said, it's a win-win. The department will get the research assistance that it needs to keep this going. And then the students will have very meaningful work that they'll be assigned to.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Milani.
I had the opportunity to sit with George and Denise to discuss this program at length. I mean, based on my experience with internship programs, what works, what doesn't, and we discussed how they'd be measured, that the interns need meaningful work, and that internship needs to provide value to the organization as well in order to be successful. And it appears you definitely took that conversation into consideration, and I think we're on the right track. We might not be 100% there yet, but we're heading in the right direction, right? But I do have a few questions, I guess. So first, you mentioned the 1 year evaluation period. That's evaluation of the internship program.
Correct.
You've also mentioned that this would be a 1 year internship.
Correct.
Okay.
What we want is a commitment from each intern for a year.
Okay. So, and you mentioned people were in classes in the evenings. That works well in a graduate program, so that would work great for the positions for the village manager's office. Doesn't work well for undergrads to do a year-long internship. So how are we looking to be flexible with hours with them if more than likely they would be in school during the day?
So the flexibility is obviously key to this whole thing. Our local students obviously are going to have an advantage in these programs because we're going to want students that can actually come physically to our location. So generally the internships will be 20 hours, but if we have a student that needs less than that, then we're going to work with them. You know how classes are. You might have all classes Tuesdays and Thursdays and available Monday, Wednesdays. So we're going to have flexibility with that.
Sure. Okay.
I just wanted to add really quick, we do have some interns who are also available to us during breaks, break times, summer, winter, all that. So there's some additional opportunity for project completion during those breaks as well.
Okay. And I guess you also mentioned, co-ops with credit and things like that. So will these interns be required to take a class through their school, or would it be an optional class that they would take? Because not everybody needs to have an internship to graduate. So
Correct. That's an optional part
so
of it.
there may not be a tie to a college, or a college course.
Correct.
With these interns. Okay. And would they be guaranteed a position by coming through this internship, or is this just possibly an option for employment?
It's just like the analogy is the minor leagues teams. You know, just because you're in the minor leagues doesn't mean you make it to the majors.
Right. And you know, your comment about research, they would be doing research. You know, my biggest thing on this is it needs to be meaningful work. So if it's busy work, wasting your time, wasting an intern's time, because there needs to be some care and feeding of that person. You need to mentor them. You need to show them how things work. You can't just put them in a room and say, go do research and come out in a week, right? So hopefully we'll have, like, you know, I think we discussed like work plans. Here's some expectations. Here's what I would like you to do over the course of the next year. We're going to have checkpoints here, here, and here. Here are some things I want you to learn along the way. So we actually have a documented work plan for this person knows exactly what to expect coming in.
Correct.
And then when you come out, you can evaluate on it.
And that is the plan. So before they start, there's a work plan, and during the course, they have weekly check-ins, and at the end, actually on a semester basis, they will have an evaluation done.
And I guess one other question, I kind of hear a little bit of both here. I hear this is a great recruiting tool, and I'm kind of hearing this might also be a good way to have some part-time extra help.
Correct.
How are we viewing this?
Yes.
How should we be looking at it?
We're looking at it from all aspects.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a great recruiting. We're getting some smart, we're going to look for smart people at a very reasonable rate. We fully anticipate them to work in some very meaningful work, like I said, the policies and procedures. It isn't just a single goal. We have multiple goals. The organization does. They're going to have their own goals too, which is to, is this the field that I want to be in? And I need experience if I want to get a good job when I'm done with school.
Right, and I guess a question for Denise then would be, looking at the outlook of finding qualified candidates in the public sector right now, how does that look?
In general, for hiring or for interns?
For hiring.
Hiring, it's tough. You know, we're looking to hire some excellent talent, and, you know, right now, people didn't move in 2020. People are moving now. Everybody's jumping. And so there's a lot of opportunity right now in the market, but you really have to find cream of the cream, you know, cream of the crop at the top.
And we're probably going to fall victim to that in the future, of people finding positions in other places. I mean, that happens. That's attrition. We're going to have people retiring. You know, that things happen. So in order to kind of build your bench, so to speak, you know, I think this is a good program. That's what we use ours for as well. You know, finding qualified candidates, putting them through an internship program of some sort. You develop individuals that understand your environment, they understand your culture, they understand your policies and procedures. So when you do come to that time, you know, it only makes sense to hire those people because they're knowledgeable of your
And
environment.
people who have Village of Orland Park on their resume, I will tell you, is pretty impressive.
Right. Crown jewel of Chicago Southland, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. And I guess one thing, you know, we talked about some of this, but it's not really in the policy. If your goal is accreditation, and some of these other things that we're talking about, I think maybe we need to expand on it in the policy a little more to make it more clear, because some of these questions I had, I don't think were directly answered.
Sure. So the accreditation goal is not the goal, is the goal of the departments.
Sure.
So if we recall, the accreditation goal ultimately is the responsibility of department directors and their designees. The internship program is to augment the research assistants that the departments can have. So accreditation is, in and of itself, is not the goal for the interns, but the interns are part of that process to get to accreditation.
Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Katsinas.
George, if you can please explain what you shared with me earlier about paid versus unpaid.
Sure.
As you know, I have daughters who had unpaid and just recently completed her third unpaid internship with the school district, and a 10-year nurse that did a 1-year internship, both unpaid at a major Chicago hospital. So when I look at, daughters having unpaid, even though it's not a huge salary per se, but still it's a salary. So could you explain what you explained to me and the rationale behind that?
So in 2018, the Department of Labor changed the rules on what constitutes a legitimate unpaid internship. And so they created a new multi-factor test for that. So the test is who primarily benefits from the internship. So if the organization is the primary beneficiary, then the intern must be compensated at the very minimum, a minimum wage. If the primary beneficiary is the intern, then they don't have to be paid. So the way to see that is the intern, it's basically, are we teaching the intern? Are we spending time teaching the intern? And if that's the case, if the intern is getting all of the education, then they could be unpaid. In our situation, we don't have the resources to hold anybody's hand and teach them. So what we want them to learn as they're working. So we want them to learn based on the product that they're going to provide. The work product that they're going to provide is going to be to our benefit, to the organization's benefit. So that test means that they have to be paid.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy.
First of all, I like the idea of the internship program. I like the idea that they have to show up in person. So many of the internship programs right now out there are just done over the internet, and there's no human contact, and these interns will get so much more out of experiencing firsthand and interacting with adults and so on and so forth. However, I saw with the thing about the police, there were certain targeted areas of engineering, HR, and so on, but I would hope that we wouldn't exclude any majors, especially in the accounting and finance area, because that's a great area to do that, and I've had a lot of success with interns in those areas, so I hope we wouldn't exclude them from this project.
There will be, if approved by the board, there would be an intern for the finance department as well.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Campos.
So in general, I am in support of an internship program as well. I do have some concerns about all of the above response as far as what we're trying to do with the objectives of this. Understand the differences between intern and paid and unpaid. The new laws or the new test under the DOL is actually meant to be more flexible, right? It's meant to be a more comprehensive test to determine what's the value of this. And I would say, even if we're going down the paid route, we should be looking more as to how do we increase then the value to the intern, right? Because primarily this is a recruiting tool. And every internship program, and I've led a couple myself in the private sector, is focused on building and acquiring new talent. And that takes time, right? And it takes energy. And I'm concerned about the fact that we're saying we don't have time to handhold. I'd argue that we might have underestimated the amount of management that typically comes with an internship program. In my case, when I've been a director of these programs, it takes a considerable amount of time, not just in the training and development of the individual, but in the social aspect, in the recruiting aspect, in the educational aspect, right? So I just want to make sure that we're looking at this not as a short-term need, but as a multi-year program. And I think that's maybe why I was a little bit surprised it was coming back in the budget amendment as opposed to a separate conversation, because I'd wholeheartedly endorse a multi-year program with those objectives in mind. I feel like we're maybe getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves and maybe not have fully considered all the time and energy that might be required for this program.
So we have a lot of part-time employees. So we do understand the amount of resources that have to go into a new hire. Obviously, when you have a new hire, there's a period of time that you have to transition up with that. So we fully understand that. What I meant by the handhold is it goes to the test of the Department of Labor's test. Again, it goes back to who will be the primary beneficiary of that. And for them to be the interns to be the primary beneficiary, we as a village have to spend more of our resources teaching. Our goal under this is going to be more coaching and mentoring. We're not going to be educating, they're going to be learning through us. But they're going to get something out of it, but so is the municipality.
So if I could just comment, so prior to my working in public sector, I worked in private sector in Chicago and hired various interns to work with our organization. The internship programs between private sector and public sector are different. So in private sector, we had multi-year interns. We had very formalized programs that were similar to the ones Trustee Milani and we talked about. And there was the intent that you were going to be hiring this individual at the end of several years or opportunities would become available. In our experience in public sector, at least in my experience in public sector with graduate students, they're taking a limited 2-year course for graduate degree programs, and so their intent, they also want to get hired. Not all the time do we have those dollars available for the positions. So the intent would be, yes, we'd love to do that, presuming that the candidate performs well and successfully and accomplishes what they need to accomplish during the course of those 2 years. And if the funds are available and we have an opportunity available, we would do that. It's just not always the same as it would have been in a private sector organization.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Milani.
So I have to go back to this holding hands and teach. I heard it 3 times and it went right through me both times, all 3 times. If we're not willing to hold hands and teach in an internship program, roll it up and put it in a drawer. That's what it's about. You have to be committed to the process. You are trying to grow individuals. So there is some hand holding, if that's what we want to call it, that needs to go into this, and teaching is part of it. We're talking about balance earlier. This is balance. You need to benefit the student, you need to benefit the organization. Then it meets the litmus test of understanding why you're paying them, because they're getting both. You can't play one side of the coin or the other. It has to be both. Because if we're doing them a disservice by going, okay, go do some research on this, I'll see you next week, you're not doing them any favors. And you're not doing yourself any favors because you're going to minimal product back and you're paying for that. But if you have somebody that actually is dedicated to mentoring and caring for this person while they're here for a year, and you're saying, hey, you know what, go take a look at this research and see how we did this. Now you pattern after how we do it, and now you start building repeatable processes. Or, hey, here's some education you might be able to go read up on. They're going to learn. You're going to get a better experience out of the intern. And at the end, you've built somebody who does understand your organization and understands the culture. I mean, I'm very passionate about this because I know this works. I had a 2-month intern. I spent 60 hours with that person. And at the end of that, 2 months, they come out understanding so much more about a company that had 400,000 people in it. Sure. And I see people come in that are supposed to be experienced, and they get lost in something that big. I know we're not that large, but still, we're talking about people in their undergraduate who'd never worked anywhere like this before. This is a great opportunity for them to come in, be successful somewhere, and maybe they don't come here to work, but they go somewhere else and be successful. And next time you know, you're hearing about them because you helped them.
Yep.
It can't be hand-holding. It has to be dedication to the process.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it that this, for this to be successful, we have to have, I mentioned this before, I was part of the NIU MPA program, the internship. It was a 2-year program. So I understand from the interns element of where I really was able to take advantage of it. What I meant maybe more for the hand-holding is we need people that are going to come in that have a little bit of knowledge of what they're going to be working on. So, you know, if we're looking for in the finance department someone with finance skills, well, an art major is not going to help us there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not expecting you to come in and teach someone who's in the finance department time value of money. I mean, they should know that coming in, right?
Correct. Right.
But they don't understand the inner workings of an organization like this.
Right. And so that is our responsibility. It's our responsibility with all of our employees. You know, the orientation, setting expectations, evaluation, all of that is our responsibility, and it won't be any different with the internship.
Yeah, I guess, you know, moving forward, let's not call it, we don't have time to handhold and teach, I guess. Just, you know, let's focus on what it's really about.
Sure. Any other comments? So I have a few comments, and I've obviously been here for longer than anyone else. We worked really, really hard to reduce staff, and I think we've done so. We were very bloated. This looks like, you know, frankly, and part of the goal here is to add part-time staff. The idea of internships, I'll echo, is training, not part-time work. I have a long history of training, back to Air Force days, and obviously as a business owner had to train a lot of people, and also in consulting was actually responsible for our company's training. So and we did internships, so I understand it. I have some other issues, you know, for example, and I don't know what it requires. I guess one of the questions is, what does it require for an hour's perspective for it to count as an internship over a year?
So the way we are budgeting for all of this.
Not budgeted, what do they need to count?
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to get 20 hours a week.
What do they need to count for their internships?
Every school is different, so every school has a different requirement.
Do we have a rough number?
So for NIU's MPA program, you just had to have an internship. That's
okay.
it.
So the reason I get at this is we're basically putting them into IMRF with 1,000 hours when we could work them 750 and not pay IMRF and not give them a full year credit. I think it's wrong to get, we've said it here on the board floor before, it's wrong to get IMRF credit for a full year for part-time. And you know, I realize it's the law for employees, but we don't have to add more employees to do that. So that's part of this expenditure in there. So I would not want to see IMRF credit for those people, so I think we need to cut back the hours. Personally, I would prefer an unpaid, because I want to make sure that we're training them. That's the idea behind this, is to train them to develop for us. And what I see here is that potentially we're not going to be doing that. And, you know, if it's for procedures and processes, well, that's the last thing I would use them on, because they're not going to have any experience with any of that organizationally. Maybe they free you up to do some of that work yourself. But I want to see us have a real plan for how we're going to train these people into each department. That requires the department heads and or assistants to develop those programs, so that we train someone that one, we obviously want to identify if we want to keep them as employees, but also we want to make sure they're fully trained, so when they are employees, they really hit the ground running. So I also want to see, and this was brought up the last time, for any internships, I want to see very stringent rules on patronage, nepotism. I'm not saying we have a problem with that, but we have those rules for us. We don't have those rules anywhere else. I want to see those rules for this. I want to see how we're going to address that and how we're going to make sure that we don't have any of that. Because that can happen in an organization, and I don't want to see that happen. I'm not saying that anyone here would do that, but you're not always going to be here. So, you know, potentially, I mean, anybody will leave. So
we'll get that.
I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, and if somebody tries to slip something through the cracks, because you, George, you could be the village manager, and Denise could be the HR hire, and somebody recommends somebody, blah, 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 and then you find out that the person who's working in there is the nephew of the director. I'm not saying any of our directors would do that, but if they do, I want to make sure there's consequences for that, because it should absolutely not happen. I guess my position on this right now is I think we're premature. I'm not opposed to it. Like I said, I'd rather see an unpaid program that's well thought out. I could potentially be talked into a paid internship program. I think it needs to be part of the normal budget process, not a budget amendment. And how does it fit in with our overall budget, where we talk about all of our personnel, we talk about all of our capital, we talk all of our budget items. So that's my position on it. I don't know how others feel on the board, but I guess I would entertain a motion right now, if the board is so inclined, is to amend the motion to approve an increase in the general fund expenditure budget in the amount of $47,570 and not include the internship program.
So moved.
Second.
And so on that amendment, we can have a discussion on that amendment.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned something that brought a question to my mind that maybe George can answer. Is the level of candidate we're going to get compared from to a non-paid versus a paid significantly different? Does NIU, you said they just needed any internship. Is the quality of the person you're getting significantly different?
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's my assumption, but
we're going to struggle finding unpaid interns that are qualified for the departments. I mean, NIU will not send an intern unpaid. They just won't do it.
Are enough villages out there doing it, paid that there's enough jobs for them to go out and find,
It's the pick of the litter. They can go to, when I started with my internship, I had 7 internship offers.
All paid?
All paid. There is no graduate unpaid internship in the public sector.
Well, so we have multiple programs here. We have graduate, we have undergraduate. We do have the unpaid police, which I'd say go ahead with right now if it's an unpaid one. But I think one of the things we also need to know then when you do that is we need to know, I want to see benchmarking for what people pay for these internships. Sure. I'd want to see benchmarking from all those other places that we consider to be comparables to us, because we know that Orland Park, to Denise's point, is very good on the resume. So comparables to us that offer an internship program that's paid, what do they pay their people? So that if we are going to go down the paid route, we're getting the best. The best candidates available. If we decide to do that, we need to make sure we're competitive. So, so it still brings me to the point on the amendment that we're probably premature in.
One more comment, just about timing is what I'm asking you. You table it now. What is the timing of these internships? Is it typical, in my world, it's, summer, they get a summer internship. Is it typical when they start, when they stop? And again, I'm just asking in terms of tabling this and gathering this other information, are we missing a window? Are we,
So typically the window is they would start in the fall with the fall semester. This is typically what happens.
That's now though, right?
Right.
So we're not going to do this until for another year? I mean,
we can push it off for another year.
Well, I'm not asking you to push it off. I'm saying this is August 2nd. These people already found all their internships. Most of the people that are out there, were you planning on recruiting, tomorrow and getting people in this?
We would start as soon as possible.
Okay.
But to Trustee Reardon's point, I think, we're not going to get the pick of the litter we're rushing this to get fall interns. So I would rather see it as part of the budget process, really think it out and then put it in place and have and I think we also heard multi-year program. I think we're willing to move forward with that, but we need to see all of those details out. At least me. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but so.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments on the amendment?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
I do have a question. So you're working with different schools. Do those schools have requirements for graduation where you're saying a year, and I understand the meaning to the madness of wanting, if we're going to invest time to train somebody, to have them for an entire year. I feel in my experience it takes a year for somebody to really learn fully a job anyway. And I think that it could be beneficial for that person. But if somebody's coming and it's unpaid and they just need a summer internship, I don't know that they would want that type of a commitment.
Well, no,
so does the
right.
program at those schools require that 1 year, or is that just us requiring the year?
It would be us requiring, the 1 year is on our part because of the ramp up to get them on board and trained up. What we want is, if we're going to do all of that, if we're going to invest that time, then we would want from them at least a 1 year commitment. But for the unpaid internships, if it's a school requirement, like the police, it's a 6-week, it's a very limited duration.
I'm just envisioning that if I only needed to do it for 3 months, somebody may say, okay, I'll sign up for a year, but they only need so much time for the school requirement. Would they actually follow through? Especially if it's unpaid.
Right.
Or they can go somewhere else.
We're not going to ask, for the unpaid, we will not ask for a 1-year commitment.
Okay.
I mean, you're right, that just makes it, I mean,
I don't see that to be successful, because I just would have envisioned that they're going to want to get a
right. They may just
different
need
opportunity.
it, just like in the police department, the police, the ones that are majoring in criminal justice have to do a 6-week, a very limited duration internship. And in that situation, it's the intern is kind of just is getting that training for that 6 weeks, and then they're gone.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So a reminder, we're talking about the amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Milani.
Yeah, so if we're looking to remove this, then we would basically move this forward to the budget process, talk about our different options, the multi-year plan. I also think a possible 3-6 1-year option might be a better way to do it, because some people may not be able to dedicate a 1 year, so maybe when we bring it back. But that's our end goal here, is to remove it, bring it to the budget process,
Correct.
and then come out with a full plan on this.
Come out with a full.
Talk about it one last time.
I mean, right now we're talking about the amendment, but I would say we would want a full plan, including, unpaid options besides just for the police. Are there other unpaid options? What does it cost? Other places that are doing the internships, what departments are they doing the internships? What are they charging for the internships? Because if we are looking at getting the best talent we can, we need to make sure we're competitive on that regard as well. Obviously, we're competitive for our brand name, but, obviously there's still a pay component to it, so I think we need to know that. And I think we have to have some of the other things that were brought up tonight. We need to have that as part of the plan.
Right. There's definitely.
I think we just want. I think what you're hearing is that we're okay with it. We want to see a more fleshed out plan that we haven't really seen yet. Is that fair? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're getting there.
Any other comments on the amendment? So right now the question is put to amend the motion to change the general fund to $47,570 and not include the internship program. Call the roll on that.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Milani?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Rachevsky?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye. Are there any other comments on the internship as a whole? Or do we have that? Okay. Then I'll enter or call the roll on the amended motion.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Rachevsky?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Milani?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
An ordinance amending appendices A and B to ordinance number 5622.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to recommend that the village board approve an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending appendices A and B to ordinance number 5622.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Trustee-
Excuse me. I do have a question. Do you have a question?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Milani?
I just saw on will we have to remove the position of intern graduate?
We do.
Since it's not budgeted, we can't, even if it went through,
Right.
we wouldn't be able to hire them.
One thing do we need to do this today? Because one thing that I would like to see is what the increase is by each of the thing, or can you just tell me what are the increases for each of the ranges?
It's not this.
Because we have the new one, we have the new amount, but we don't have the old amount.
So for which one are you talking?
Across the board, I mean, how are all these salaries, because these are all of our negotiated positions. How did these positions change?
These are just title changes.
These are just title changes? There's no...
Yeah, so if you look, the first one, we're removing after schools PALS instructor.
Okay.
We don't
So
have that.
it's just all title changes. There's no...
The only other thing that's happening is we are combining hydrant painter, sign remover, public works facility attendant, maintenance employee 2. We are combining them all under maintenance employee part-time.
Okay.
So we had
All
a
right,
number of these
great.
part-time maintenance employees.
All right, awesome. Then call the roll.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Rashevsky?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Are there any non-scheduled visitors, citizens?
Okay.
None?
Nope. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Rashevsky?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye. Do you guys want to roll right into the board meeting, or do you want 5 minutes?
I need 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. So
Trustee Healy? Here. Trustee Katsinas? Here. Trustee Malani?
Here.
Trustee Compass? Trustee Reardon? Trustee Rashevsky? Mayor Pico?
Here.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the July 19th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas?
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of July 19th, 2021.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Radiszewski?
I'd like to see a change on the minutes to reflect who took the minutes of the last meeting since Mr. Sullivan was out.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to amend the minutes to properly reflect who was the acting clerk was that took the minutes at the Board of Trustees meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll on the amendment.
Who made the motion?
Healy, and I think it was Council.
Second.
Who seconded?
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Rashevsky?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Rashevsky?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Where's my agenda go? Here we go. The Veterans Commission appointment.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
move to advise and consent the appointment of Dan Braglia to the Veterans Commission.
Second.
Call the roll.
Who's got the second? I'll vote Malani. Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye. Dan, if you want to come up, and I'm sorry you're delayed an hour. I wasted an hour of the day. Apologize.
Second.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't talk. But they're the deputy clerks. I think they have legal authority. That's something I would take up with George. You would probably know in terms of, because my name's on all the minutes all the time.
To the office
Yes, I've missed before too.
of the Veterans Commission in the Village of Orland Park. In the counties of Cook and Will aforesaid. Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Illinois. And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Veterans Commission to the best of my ability. Thank you very much for volunteering. Thanks for volunteering.
Speed.
Didn't you learn from your military time? Don't ever volunteer?
You're lucky I didn't walk out.
I know.
I thought we had to get the speech.
And Dan just asked some of these people on the board here. Don't ever volunteer.
Be careful what you wish for.
Ready?
Yep.
Consent agenda.
Accounts payable, I think, first, right? Accounts payable.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. Accounts payable approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Healy.
I move to approve the accounts payable from July 21st, 2021 through August 1st, 2021 in the amount of $1,779,982.97.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas. Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, payroll approval, item A. Item B, an ordinance amending the Title 4, Chapter 3 of the Orland Park Village Code to establish new water and sewer rates for the Orland Ridge subdivision. Item C, Chick-fil-A special use permit amendment with modifications and variance ordinance. Item D, museum night out. Item E, ITB number 21-40, Parks Court repairs 2021. Item F, IDNR Special Wildlife Funds Habitat Fund resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
move to approve items A through F of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Rashevsky?
Aye.
Mayor Pika?
Aye.
The Orland Park Police Department's Therapy Dog Program.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to approve the creation and implementation of the Orland Park Police Department's Therapy Dog Program for staff and citizens.
Second.
Second.
Can we,
Sandy.
do we need to see the PowerPoint? Didn't we see that the last time, or do we
did.
want to see that again? Yeah, so anybody need to see the PowerPoint again? Okay, great. I think it's a great program. Anybody else have comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Healy?
It's my understanding, George, can you confirm, we're still accepting donations for this program? So if we can just continue, if anybody wants to give, they're more than welcome to give.
Yep, and we'll put some information out too on how they can give too.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass?
just that I wholeheartedly endorse this program. It's a win-win-win on multiple levels. I'm just hoping that Maverick isn't the jealous type.
Any other questions? Great, call the roll.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pika?
Aye.
Tree stump grinder purchase and delivery.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani.
move to approve to use Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract Number 062117-VRM and award the purchase and delivery of one Vermeer SC-802 stump cutter to Vermeer Midwest LLC of Aurora, Illinois for an amount not to exceed $55,438 per quote dated July 21st, 2021, and authorize the village manager to execute an agreement with Vermeer Midwest LLC, subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Malani.
Question for staff really quick. So we were just able to find a cost savings on the trash hauler, and that's how we purchased the stump grinder, correct? Correct. Okay. So when we purchased that trash hauler, did we use a co-op for that as well?
We used our, the bedding was a co-op, and then the vehicle was through our state contract.
Okay. So
with Ford.
Okay, great. So we started these in early 2020, so it's definitely we're seeing value from the co-ops then. So great. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously I'm familiar with pricing on stump machines, and this is in line, for sure. And this is in line 4 years ago, so it's definitely in line today.
Yeah, this is my favorite brand of stump grinder, by the way.
Not mine, but that's okay. It's a plenty good brand. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pika?
Aye.
Fiscal year 2021 budget amendment number 4 approval.
Mr. Chairman?
So I'll entertain a motion to approve an increase in the general fund expenditure budget in the amount of $47,570 and not including the internship program, an increase in water and sewer fund expenditure budget of $316,430, an increase in the recreation and parks fund of $9,981, and a decrease in the capital project fund expenditure budget of $251,928 as detailed on the fiscal year 2021 amendment number 4.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pika?
Aye.
An ordinance amending appendices A and B to ordinance number 5622.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to approve an ordinance entitled An Ordinance Amending Appendices A and B to Ordinance Number 5622.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye. And I should note to anyone who might be watching, the 100 people or so that look at these videos, those items were discussed at the Committee of the Whole in great detail, so that's why there's no discussion on the board floor, because they were discussed tonight earlier.
Ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 16, Section 2-16-1 of the Orland Park Village Code, designating an auditing official for the Village of Orland Park.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Healy.
I move to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 16, Section 2-16-1 of the Orland Park Village Code, designating an auditing official for the Village of Orland Park.
Second.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Compass.
I'll keep it short, but I just want to say that, I was struck in reviewing this new title that this is one of those occasions, again, where Orland Park's ahead of the curve. About 2 years ago, we went through the process of an ad hoc ethics committee wherein we established an ethics officer and an ethics commission. And at the risk of sounding immodest, I think that Trustee Healy and I did a fairly good job with our other committee members in putting together a pretty comprehensive ordinance there. So while I hope that we never have a need for such a position, or that it's zero or minimal, the need for it is certainly there, and it seems that the state of Illinois has finally caught up to that. So I think I had no other questions on that, just wanted to make sure that folks knew that we were ahead on this.
Great. Yeah, the only thing I would say is that it's great that the state pushes ethics things down to the municipal level. I'd like them to see them do it for themselves. So, any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye.
Are there any non-scheduled citizens or visitors? Seeing none.
None. Board comments. We'll start with, should we start with Trustee Healy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have only one comment tonight. That's I hope everybody has a good time at Taste of Orland this weekend. I think it's one of the best venues for getting together with people out there, and I'm looking forward to the music and the food. Thank you.
Trustee Katsinas.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everybody, tomorrow evening, August 3rd, at our Civic Center, I believe it's from 5, Chief, is it 5 to 9? 5 to 9, we're having the National Night Out Against Crime. There will be a wide variety of entertainment options for everyone to enjoy. You'll also have free raffles with many different prizes for people of all ages. So please come out and support the Orland Park Police and Night Against Crime. Thank you.
Trustee Malani.
First off, I'd like to thank our staff, actually, as we've completed 7 of the 9 park renovations that we had scheduled this year, and they look great. I went by Cashy Park, and they did a fantastic job over there. I'd also like to congratulate the CPAC staff, actually, as they earned their 5-star audit for the month of July, and this is the 41st time that they've done that. So, thank you for them for, making safety and operational standards their priority out there. So, we also had a sold-out showing of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on the 31st, and there's a handful of spots available for the August 21st showing of Shrek, so get them while they're hot. And don't forget to put Brewfest on your calendar for September 18th, as tickets are still available. We hope to see you out there. So, thank you all for coming this evening, and have a great night.
Trustee Compass.
So, talking about building on strengths of Orland, as we head into our budgeting season coming up, I'd like to call out that back in February, S&P confirmed a high credit rating of AA+ on the village. Moody's also gave us the same equivalent rating, and I suspect that we'll be seeing some more updates on our next bond series in the very near future. Some highlights from that report about the village: very strong economy, strong management with good financial policies and practices. Thank you, George, Kevin, and Greg. Maintaining reserves well above our peers and despite the 2020 economic downturn. And ultimately, this positioned us well with a very strong budgetary flexibility. And then ultimately, a very strong institutional framework as a homeroom village. So the main reason we did not receive a AAA rating is the Illinois factor. But there's some tiny good news in that as well. This past June, the state managed to pull itself out of being one step above a junk bond rating to a BBB, or 2 steps above a junk bond rating. Last year, Illinois ranked dead last in fiscal stability. Those are the headwinds that we deal with in Orland Park, but despite that, our village remains fiscally strong. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank the previous board, but especially its trustees Healy, Katsinas, and Milani, and Mayor Peacaw, for setting and staying with the right economic decisions that allowed us to weather the last year as well as we did. So while I know that these upcoming meetings are going to be long, I look forward to being part of keeping the ship moving in the right direction in 2022. Thank you.
Trustee Reardon.
You said Reardon? I'm sorry. Yeah. First, I want to thank Ed and Greg for your great responses to a business that's going through some renovations the past couple weeks. They were having some trouble. They reached out to me, and you guys did a great job of responding with the third-party vendor that we're using. So I was very happy with what you guys got to me and then got to them. So it was very helpful, very quick response. So thanks. Also want to see everybody at the Taste of Orland, but also we won't be back before the next concert, which is the 14th, Blue Oyster Cult, who I've seen before and put on a great show. So that's the 14th, that's the second in the series. As of right now, I just looked at the weather, the 10-day forecast looks good, so hopefully we're gonna have no issues pulling off that concert. So thanks and have a great couple weeks.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of the information that you provided us this evening. I know it was a lot, so I'm looking forward to hearing more the next time that we meet. And I also want to remind everybody that we still have Market at the Park next 2 weeks, next 2 Thursdays, that is. And Brian mentioned the upcoming concert on the 14th, and then we also have another one in September. So hopefully we'll see you all out there at our upcoming events, including the taste this weekend.
Thank you. So my comments tonight, so I'll start with another letter that I received, or actually the chief received, and I'm going to keep some of the particulars out of it to protect the family, but they wanted to express their sincere appreciation to the Orland Park Police Department with the help they gave their family during a young family member's passing away. In particular, they wanted to thank Ron Arendt, who was very supportive and helpful to them through this difficult time. So more great work from our police department. We always hear about arresting criminals, but we do so many other things that are so positive for the community, which is why they're so well regarded. So appreciate that. Appreciate all the hard work that staff puts into everything that we do, including Taste of Orland, which staff busts their hump for. It's a very challenging but fun event. I know they look forward to it. And then you follow the next week with a paid concert as well. So it's a very busy couple of weeks for staff. So I really appreciate it. And everyone should know that both of those events, the entire staff, works on this. It's not just, it's a lot of parks, it's a lot of our Parks and Rec, department, but it is also Public Works, it's police, it's everybody, all hands on deck that want to volunteer are out there, and there's always volunteers from every department, so greatly appreciate that. The concert coming up on August 14th, get your tickets. Also September 5th, you're still getting tickets at a reduced rate if you buy both. Individual tickets are going to be much more costly for a concert. So, please come out and enjoy the concert, and look forward to seeing you there. I also want to touch on something. I think it's tough for all of us. It's been challenging the last 18 months, and I feel, I really struggle with this, whether I say something tonight or don't say something tonight. But I feel like being in this position that I wouldn't be doing the right thing if I didn't, say what I think is on a lot of our minds. Over the last 18 months, we've witnessed what, at least to me, is a pretty unsettling time in American history. For the first time ever, we have quarantined healthy people. We locked down businesses and destroyed people's lives in the name of health and safety. Now we are arresting people in the United States Capitol for not wearing a mask. What is astonishing to me is that these actions and many others were taken without passing any laws. Apparently, many of our elected officials in Congress, state legislatures, local government, and school boards need to be reminded that we are a nation of laws. If you want measures like this enacted, then stop hiding behind emergency orders and go through the legislative process. Present the facts, debate, and vote. A reminder that when we started taking these measures, we were told emphatically that it was to protect our hospitals and make sure they were not overrun. Somehow, this goal has morphed into eradication of a coronavirus. The human species has only eradicated one human virus, and that's smallpox, in our history. COVID will be with us for a long time to come. In fact, coronaviruses, like the common cold, have been around for a long time. There will be more variants in the future. Our elected officials need to remember that the decisions that we are making right now set a precedent for how we're going to handle COVID for decades to come. What is most disheartening to me, however, is what many of our elected officials and school officials have done to our children throughout this pandemic. We stopped a school year short, causing students to lose 2 months of learning and a season of spring sports. For an entire year, many school districts and states conducted learning experiments of independent study, Zoom classes, and what we now call hybrid learning. While some students may have handled this very well, and some surely did, many were left behind, particularly in the most challenging areas of need. For an entire year, we took away many of our children's activities. What is encouraging is that many schools and states took different approaches and showed that schools could be open safely, sports and extracurriculars could be conducted safely, and children could be allowed to live and learn relatively normally. Doesn't mean they didn't do it differently, but they still were able to do it. It's sad that so many others didn't learn from their success. What is most disheartening now is how our federal government has mortgaged away our children's future. Our national debt stood at $9 trillion in 2009. And now stands at almost $29 trillion, just 12 years later. 233 years to put on $9 trillion of debt, and 12 to add another $20 trillion. This is criminal, and nobody talks about it anymore. We have saddled our children with a burden that will negatively impact their way of life, the American way of life. We've done all this to our children for a disease with a case mortality rate for children that is nearly zero. More children in the U.S. died in 2018/19 from the flu than have died from COVID over 18 months. H1N1, for those of us who remember it, took the lives of 3 to 5 times as many children as COVID has, and we didn't take any of these precautions. What you may not have heard that in a given year, the second leading cause of death for children 10 to 14 and 15 to 19 is suicide. Over 500 deaths annually for 10 to 14-year-olds and over 2,400 deaths annually for 15 to 19-year-olds. The one-year total is 9 times the number of COVID deaths in children over an 18-month period. A one-year total 9 times what an 18-month total is for COVID. The data shows that we do not need to be requiring mask wearing for our children's safety, which means we'd be forcing them to wear masks for the safety of unvaccinated adults. Personally, I don't think our children should bear the brunt of a disease that has no impact on them to make adults feel more comfortable. Any adult that is at risk has had plenty of time to get a vaccination. If they have not, it is their decision, and it is ludicrous and irresponsible to force vaccines upon children to protect those adults from COVID. Adults should be protecting our children, not the other way around. And we should be doing everything possible to let them have normal lives. I hope you all come out and enjoy on that note, I hope you all come out and enjoy our event this weekend at Taste of Orland. We saw everything that's happening in Chicago with Lollapalooza. We saw everything happening at Guaranteed Rate Field with 36,000 people. I was there. Nobody's wearing masks. People are carrying on normal lives. And the number of ICUs in the Southwest region, ICU beds taken up, 4. I can tell you that's like off the charts low from anything that was going on through COVID. We need to get back to living our normal lives. We have been, and we're still doing well. And we need to take that approach. So please come out and enjoy it. Come out and have fun. We've been at the leading edge of this with no issues. And so I really hope you all come out and really enjoy this year. Last year we had a very limited attendance, understandably. This year I'd love to see attendance up where it has been in the past. So it's going to be great weather this weekend, so please come out and enjoy it. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Reardon?
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.